As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
Son of a bitch. He stole my life.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Welcome back to the Shot by Shot podcast. Today we're talking the long-awaited 6-year wait of Bong Joon-ho's Parasite follow-up, Mickey 17, which I've now seen twice. I think I'm in a fairly good place to be able to say that although this isn't on a level of like a top Bong film, this is still a really fun, original science fiction movie, and the first of the year that I think is really like a real movie. It feels like a movie, and it doesn't have maybe the impact of some of his other films, but Bong Joon-ho is always a blast. He's such a goofy guy that always delivers, and I just had a really good time with this, living in the world of Mickey 17. So yeah, I think it was a good time. What did you think of this, Oscar?
The secret present slander is crazy. There, first real movie of the year. It's crazy.
There is no Soderbergh slander here.
The Soderbergh disrespect is crazy. Anyway, Mickey 17, obviously, first film since Parasite, which is kind of crazy to think about. Been heavily delayed. I know they said it was like, oh, because they wanted to release it in IMAX, but yeah, it was cool seeing it in IMAX. Bong Joon-ho's an interesting director, and especially his English language stuff. Obviously, we have Snowpiercer and Okja as well, both kind of heavy in satire. This as well, and yeah, his satire is really interesting. I've mentioned before that satire is difficult, and I know last week talked about in the Parasite episode that it doesn't really land for me as it used to. I still think it's a good film. And I kind of fall under the same boat with this, but in a slightly different way. This is a film that takes pride in just being just chaotic with its satire. It's just kind of like a spin attack. It just kind of throws things out left, right, and center, ideas, themes, motifs, and then like the hopes everything sticks to the wall, but kind of some things are falling off. And I didn't necessarily mind that, but it becomes a point where I'm just like, it gets a bit tiring, and I'm just like, is this really doing anything more than it set out to do? But yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts. Good film, just a bit disappointed.
Yeah, wait, what did you rate that? 6 out of 10?
3 out of 5. 6 out of 10. Yeah,
I think it's like a high 7. I had fun with it. But yeah, we're gonna go into spoilers now. So if you've not seen it, go and check it out first, because this is definitely the film to see so far this year. We talked about last week, like you're saying, that distinct difference between his Korean films and his English language films, and I don't think it's any different here. I do agree with you. I don't really have any problems with or your problems with the movie, where he likes to kind of dive into genre and explore his real issues of capitalism, class division. Nothing really new here that he hasn't done before, but it's still done in this really like fun blockbuster way that are laced with satire throughout, which is common with most of his films. Bar the Host, which I would say is a bit more like his American films with some of that comedy in it. All his films have comedy, but it's a bit almost leaning towards that American side that he does. But they're definitely enhanced in that US productions compared to the stuff like Memories of Murder and Parasite and Mother. He's a goofy guy, which is what I love about him. All these films have like these comedy laced throughout. Even beginning with his debut, Barking Dogs Don't Bite, which I just watched, is like this really dark comedy, and it's hilarious at times. But whenever you start to do these newer Bong stuff where the satire is like so in your face, like there's always going to be these. It's always going to end up with a polarizing result in a way that satire doesn't really exist anymore outside Bong's films. I think we're not really used to it. Only really Adam McKay, I guess, and the big US directors attempting it, and we know how polarizing he is. He's not really like.
Don't Look Up is horrendous. It's so bad. Yeah, satire.
I don't hate him, but
yeah, satire as a whole is just something really difficult to tackle. There's been some good ones. Cobweb, Kim Ji-won, the Korean director, really underrated film from this decade that we mentioned in our one of our other videos. That's a really fantastic satire. But yeah, this kind of in your face stuff is. I described it in kind of my review that I wrote and my video on TikTok. It for me, it's just really like an adrenaline shot. Like at first, I was like, I was in. This was like it's so chaotic and it's so messy, and loads of things are just happening. You know, we kind of start a bit forward and then we're kind of flashing back. There's a lot of exposition, to be honest. We're like the narration's just like, oh, here's this and this happened, and he's falling
It's
in
very
love.
Goodfellas, like monologue.
Yeah.
Talk over.
But yeah, like I said, I like the way that it owns its messiness and its goofiness, and Robert Pattinson is just elevating that tenfold. One of the greatest actors of our generation, really. His filmography is outstanding, and it's only going to continue to grow. You know, this year he's got some fantastic films coming out. One with Lynn Ramsey, that's going to be an absolute blinder, I hope. Yeah, and he's so good. I think it. The problem I had with Parasite was I think it chokes itself by being too calculated in a way. And whilst I don't think this does that necessarily, I think it still becomes shallower as the film goes on, and with like the editing you could tell so this had been kind of butchered in places, and I even think at parts it like went on too long, to be honest. Like there's just the gags, I'm like, yeah, I know the point of satire is obviousness and repetitive obviousness for a lot of the cases, and I think this is what Bong is really going for in this film. But I don't know, just for me, I just get quite tired with it. And you get to a point with this because there's so much going on that there's only so much you can touch on with this. Like he's throwing out so much, and it's kind of landing for the most part, but then he kind of reaches a point where it's like there's not any more that he can touch on, and he's just kind of, it starts recycling a bit for me. And I think the last act just I don't know, there's just something about it that I don't know, it wasn't what I was expecting necessarily in a way, but I don't really know what I was expecting. You can have Mark Ruffalo's character, who's kind of the most obvious Donald Trump figure ever, and it is really funny. Like the veneers, the teeth, that was one of the funniest bits.
That assassination attempt as well. That is one of the craziest predictions of all time in a movie. Like, how does that happen?
I know that I didn't even think of that. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think of that. And it's funny because you get all the conservatives that are like, oh yeah, how are they making fun of this, guys? This film has been delayed by like goodness knows how long. This is
Yeah.
But anyway, a timely film and a justified one. But I don't know, it's just something about it doesn't click. And obviously this kind of totalitarian capitalist mocking thing is Bong stuff, is very personal to him, but something obviously not new at all, and is not necessarily original, and putting it in this kind of sci-fi perspective does kind of push it forward a bit into this originality. Obviously it's a adapted work from a book. Obviously book was called Mickey 7, and Bong Joon-ho was just like, yeah, we we just want 10 more Robert Pattinsons, because why not? Yeah, but I think he said it was just like an easy way of boosting this kind of level of discovery of kind of hatred on life, and like just an easy way of showing that the extent of what he's kind of doing and being exploited in a way.
I do agree with the third half. I think it does kind of peter out, and it doesn't feel like that perfectly crafted where every element is connecting in some way that you do feel with Bong, like you're saying. And it's definitely that kind of third half where I do think there's some pacing issues as well. I do agree with that. The whole film kind of feels like one half Snowpiercer and one half Okja, like combining into each other. Like you've got those like very like industrialized sets and the gray and the blue like color palette from there. And then you've also got like the kind of humanity of the corporation coming and like using the animals for their own greed side of Ultra. But I don't think it really comes together to really create any of the emotionality that both those films end up having. I like the core idea of like Mickey having self doubt and not looking at himself as a human with any worth, and eventually gaining some self respect with the help of 18. But I also don't think that has much of a really impactful moment in the film that I look at and think that's like the great moment in the movie. I do think the main problem with the movie is this third act. It just wraps up in like this such like neat bow, and just none of these other films
Mm,
really do that. It just leaves you. It doesn't leave you with much to think about. Whereas
mm.
it's kind of a trait with Bong Joon Ho that you have, that he has this ability to create such like memorable and thought provoking endings. That's a trait between
I
both his Korean and US films.
yeah, I have the same problem with the Parasite ending in a way. I know you don't necessarily agree, but yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, I like that this kind of exploration between the two Pattinsons is kind of this visual representation of self-esteem, and it works to a pretty good extent actually. It surprised me
Mhm.
to kind of see that, but again, it's kind of thrown into a sea of a cluster of ideas that I think it just surfaces enough to stay relevant. But yeah, the third act almost becomes a bit too serious. To be honest, we're kind of this shelf life for this satire is kind of fading, and it almost becomes just too normal in a way, and everything just kind of just goes off a cliff. But yeah, performances were really, really outstanding. I love Naomi Aki. I thought she was really, really brilliant.
Mhm.
She's like this glue between these two characters, and she just does a really, really fantastic job of kind of she adapts herself to like both sides of Robert Pattinson really well with like the relationships. Obviously, they've got really different personalities, and she's kind of moving around the both of them. And we get like a really funny kind of shy kind of implicit threesome scene
Mhm.
that is probably the funniest scene in the film. You got the scene where 18's like twirling 17's hair, and he's just looking at it like,
Mhm.
what are you doing? It's so funny. It's weird. Yeah, just the differences are brilliant. But this kind of film relies a lot on nihilism initially. It kind of pushes us into that corner of hopelessness for our kind of protagonist. Not really, he's being pushed into a point where he doesn't care about his existence. He's just pushed into a corner of exploitation, working class exploitation of this planet, and it asks a lot of questions in that sense. But the one kind of frequently that comes up is what does it feel like to die? The kind of humans driven to their edge of their own sanity, that the only thing that they can really question is this longing for death. And it relies a lot on this hopelessness, and like everything else I said, it works initially, but there's something about the last act that just kind of just cuts off that kind of that idea and of this hopelessness. It's like, oh yeah, and everything's just fine. I care about life now, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't stick. Um, but yeah, it's very forceful in a way, and it just struggles to fully form that arc of the questions it keeps on asking. Um, and yeah, kind of opposite to Parasite, because Parasite answers all its questions so calculatedly to the point where there's no room for anything else, and there's just nothing outside of that. This just kind of fails to answer those questions, and we're just left with kind of this hollowness by the last act. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's definitely disappointing in that factor. But to be fair, Octo and Snowpiercer I haven't seen in a while, so maybe I should revisit them. But yeah.
Yeah. Um, I found on second watch that arc did feel a little bit better because on first it felt like it was kind of forgotten about, because he like, brings up at the start when he's signing up to be an expendable that his mother, or he caused the death of his mother, and I had completely forgotten
Mm,
about it until 18 brings it up right in the final act. But it is a little bit more well kept up with throughout the rest of the film. I found on the second watch where I was making sure to kind of be more aware of it. But again, yeah, I do agree that the last act just doesn't really connect all the threads completely into like this, like make it like a great film. It's just a bit messy, and I I can't imagine. I loved I think the highlights of the film are like when the two Robert Pattinsons are on screen, and I can't imagine how complicated it must have been to shoot those actors in those scenes. Like, there's a moment towards the end and like during the final battle where they're talking to like the Queen Armadillo like creeper thing. And it's got Mickey 17 and 18 like on the other side, and it's just like, so there's a CGI character and two versions of Pattinson, and it never feels like wrong or clunky, and there's like so many shots where it's transitioning between different Mickeys in the same shot, and it's just like, this must have been just so insanely complicated to get done and keep like continuity between each shot. And for Pattinson to keep up the performance and chemistry with himself when he's not actually there, it's just crazy. And he just very rarely resorted to just basic shot reverse shots or over the shoulders where they're hiding it with a double.
Mm.
There's so many like just two shots where two Robert Pattinsons are sharing the screen, and it just looks like there's two Robert Pattinsons right in front of the camera. Bring up
Giving
the
the people what
monkey
they
and
want.
yeah. Sorry to bring up the monkey in like big March 2025, but there's those scenes with Theo James towards the end, which are just like the most awful scenes in the movie, and you just feel like they're just cutting between different takes, and there's no chemistry, and they don't feel like they're in the same room
That
together
film
like
is so
this.
bad.
Yeah.
We're in prime time of two actors, one actor playing two roles at the moment. We've got Sinners and Alto Nice coming out as well soon. It is in
Oh
full
yeah,
swing.
that's a weird trend.
Yeah, it is. It is really weird. Alto Nice does not look that interesting, to be honest, but Sinners does look
No.
absolutely fantastic. But I slightly disagree with you saying about the messiness, because I enjoyed the messiness. I just think it just gets
Oh no, I
it
did
just
enjoy it. I
slightly.
just don't think thematically it connects like
Yeah,
perfectly.
but yeah, we're kind of like the opening these this like tyrannical speeches going on by Mark Ruffalo's character, whose name I've forgotten. Like is saying, "Oh, like, oh, you can't have sex with anyone," like playing over Robert Pattinson and Naomi having sex, and just preaching that they can control things. Romances are kind of thrown left and right. Like people, like you got the other girl who kind of has she says like
Okay.
later on, or like you can take 17 and no, yeah, I can take 17 and you can take 18.
Mhm.
There's just so much going on. There's so much lust, and it it's funny that they're getting away, but they're not really going anywhere in a sense. They're not really escaping anything. And then we're thrown in like this underworld mob boss thing as well. There's like
Mhm.
there's drug dealing going on at the same time. We kind of got this arc with Stephen Yeun's character. And yeah, the most like ridiculous double chainsaw you've ever seen in your life. I found that so funny, that weapon. Yeah, it
And so
was
what did you think
during
about Mark
22.
Ruffalo's performance? Because I think that's been the most polarizing one in the movie. People still think he's
Yeah,
a bad actor.
people need to shut up, man. His comedic performances, I think, are absolutely brilliant. He was riffing in Poor Things. He was better in
Yes.
Poor Things than he was in this. I still thought he was good.
Mhm.
It's a bit jarring at some points. It's like the mannerisms, just like he's doing the Trump
Mhm.
stuff, and it's crazy. But like the testing they're doing, like, oh, they just want to find new sources. There's like a gag about in-flight TV dinners that is
Yeah.
maybe one of the funniest gags in the thing. Um, like when that girl comes to the dinner, and like she says, "Oh yeah, you're just trying to improve your in-flight TV dinner." Like the shock on his face, like the immaturity that Mark Ruffalo plays, I think is really really good. Like when he's being disrespected, his wife is just there like holding him, and he's like turning around in shock, and it is funny. But yeah, there's so much overloaded commentary. It's so zany, and these in characters adapting to this new environment. Um, and it's just kind of this overall arc, I guess, of like no matter where you go, like death, suffering, and capitalism will always find you in a way. And that's kind of the whole point of this kind of endless cycle of work exploitation that's kind of going on.
Yeah, it's capitalism in space. Um, I
Oh
think
dear.
that was one of the things that kind of didn't wrap up perfectly for me in the final act as well. Is like I don't think they really have much of a motivation other than just being these evil leaders. Um, Whereas at least in Ultra or something, it's at least a corporation that wants to use their meat as like a product, and it like all works thematically quite well. And I really I think the best moment I think well the final act of Ultra I think is the best as well. Because it always has those like emotional moments that always get me. And that's what I was just thinking for this. It doesn't really have anything like that, or Parasite, or Memories of Murder, or Mother as well. Like all these really impactful scenes that like the ones that you don't forget about. And then this final act is just kind of like the weakest part of the film. I think that generally, like going back to the satire, I don't think it kind of worked better. I think when it was like the more slapstick comedy, like movies of the 40s and 50s. I've been watching a lot of Ernst Lubitsch, his films, which he's at the peak of his powers when he was like doing like when he was like satirizing like very serious world events at like the times like the 40s. Like To Be or Not to Be, I think you've seen that where he's like making fun of the Nazi party, or some of his other
I haven't
films
seen
where
that
he's
actually.
or have you
I
not?
do need
I
to.
recommend it.
No.
Very good satire. And some of these other ones he's doing like he's satirizing like the English class hierarchy, and I think that kind of comedy just worked better when I think it was a bit more taboo in a way and not something that we were bombarded with in our daily lives. Whereas something like this does not really anything important Bong Joon-ho can say when where he's using Mark Ruffalo to kind of parody like a politician bankrolled by a church to populate a new planet with a pure white race. Because pretty much every world leader is as ridiculous as this in real life, and we're so used to it at this point. And sure, Mark Ruffalo's like he's definitely channeling Trump from his end. I don't know if Bong Joon-ho specifically was aiming for that. He's kind of just any leader because every leader in the world is pretty much a joke nowadays. So I don't know if that's what he was particularly writing for. And a lot of the leader in his movies are just like these very Americanized, over the top, ridiculous people, like most of his films. I think Toni Collette maybe done a little bit better than Tilda Swinton in this role. I think
Mm,
her performance is maybe a bit more serious and doesn't lean into that very over the top comical like leader that we usually get from these American
mm.
films. I mean, this is a big English production. I think most of the film was shot in England, and it's got a lot of British stars like Pattinson's obviously, Naomi Aki. The kid from This Is England. Did you notice that?
Yes, I recognized him from
Yeah,
somewhere. I
he's
knew I
bullying Mickey.
recognized him. Yeah.
There's a couple of
Oh,
other extras I noticed as well, just in the film. But like they filmed this in
mm.
2022, I think. But obviously Boris Johnson was in power, who is just as much of a joke as probably Mark Crawford was maybe portraying here as well. Yes. So yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
just doing they're pulling from a lot of people in here.
Yeah, they are. Mm. And yeah, that only adds to this kind of um messiness in a way that although it can be kind of identified as like a Donald Trump figure, it unfortunately applies to a lot more than just him. Um, and all the people losing their minds, like saying how terrible this is, some people is quite funny to be honest. And
Mhm.
all the people are saying like, "Oh, how did Warner Brothers green like this?" Oh my goodness! Like, first of all, David Zaslav is stupid anyway, which I'm glad for. Um, he's an absolute moron. And honestly, without his stupidity, I'm very surprised that we're getting another PTA Pynchon adaptation after Inherent Vice, which was probably his most polarizing film. And by the
Yeah.
sounds of the test screening reactions from one battle after another, yeah, this is crazy. And yeah, probably my most
I
anticipated
read
film
the
of the year,
short
to be
synopsis for
honest.
that film. It sounds like it's going to be like Babylon level, where like most people hate it, probably.
Oh yeah, it's like yeah. Wait, what was the shorts? I've forgotten. I know it's based on Vineland. I think it's I don't think it's a direct adaptation, but it has big influences from that novel, which is interesting because I think that's set in the 60s, I want to say. So it's going to be
I'm not sure
interesting
actually.
interpretation of how he brings those politics to today. But in this climate, anything can happen. And I know Sean Penn is playing a white supremacist, which already sounds like something crazy. Yeah, the small synopsis on Letterboxd at the moment just says, when their evil nemesis resurfaces after 16 years, a band of ex-revolutionaries reunite to rescue the daughter of one of their own. Yeah, that film is it's got loads of car chases apparently, and apparently it's like sci-fi, like Repo Man, which has me ecstatic because I love that film.
Yeah, I'm really
But
excited for
yeah,
that, but that does not scream like PTA's Oscars incoming.
oh no, it doesn't. Unfortunately, not.
Unfortunately.
I
Yeah.
I think I way too early, but probably I think it should sneak a Best Picture nom. Alana Haim though back in another PTA, which I'm happy about because I think she's great. But I kind of wanted to see Cooper Hoffman again, but maybe another time.
Yeah.
Maybe another time. Anyway, back to Mickey 17. We've just sidetracked over to probably going to be a better film.
Or an
Yeah,
equally disappointing film.
true, but it's PTA we're talking about
Yeah.
here, and he doesn't disappoint. He doesn't disappoint. I really hope he doesn't. Anyway, this attempt to make the satire long lasting is just it doesn't function well with these length of like feature length narratives for me. Not that I wanted to be a short film at all, but I don't know. It's not all satire. 'Cause it's absolutely not. But it's just this type of satire just doesn't fully click for me, and it always limits itself. But yeah, it's
It
this
doesn't bother me
hopelessness.
in this case that the satire is not necessarily saying anything revolutionary. I think it's just the cherry on
Mm,
top of like a fun genre blockbuster sci-fi, which is got a great director, one of the great directors of the 21st century working behind it, which is always going to be a fun
mm,
time, I think. And
yeah, true. He's a good director, no doubt. I don't think he's made a bad film, but I don't know. I only absolutely adore one of his films. Like I think Mother, I think is great. What else am I? I think The Host is great. And kind of Memories of Murder is just up here against his other filmography for me. But yeah, there's definitely fun to be had in this. Like the quotes, like "Source is the true litmus test of civilization," is so absurd. Is genuinely ridiculous. Interested to see where he goes next. I really hope he goes back to kind of his career and stuff.
yeah, well,
To
so
be
it's an
honest,
animated film next.
animated film, yes. I don't
Yeah.
know. Feels like
It's
Hollywood
Under the
just.
Sea
Mm.
with sea
There
creatures,
was
which
some.
could be really
Did
cool.
he announce his next project after that? I swear he did. I think he did. He say it was a horror film or
Um,
something?
I don't know if he did. I think it was interesting the production behind this because
Mm.
obviously Parasite came out early 2020, I guess, for us. So it's been 5 years.
Yeah, that was the last film I
Um,
saw in cinemas before lockdown. 5 years ago.
that's a great pick. I think I've seen like a January horror film or February or something. So Parasite
Yeah.
is much better than that.
This was
But he
after
was
it had won Best Picture, and my film knowledge was negative.
so yeah, I think he was working on a different film, a Korean. He was actually going to do like another Korean film, I think, on a. I don't know if
Mm,
it was a murder or something, but he thought it was. And he worked on it for a year and a half, and he decided that
mm,
it was morally wrong to use it as like a for a film, and he just kind of dropped the project altogether. Um,
interesting.
and I think Mickey 17 was just part of a collection of scripts that had been pushed towards him because I think he said that
Mm,
after Snowpiercer he was getting a lot of like sci-fi and concepts just get
mm,
bombarded by studios with that to try and do it, and it'd been rejecting them for a while. So I guess maybe that project had collapsed and he needed something, so he went and checked out Mickey 17 before, because I think it was just I don't think the book had been finished by the time he started production on this film as well.
mm,
But yeah, it's not like he was given 100 million for some passion project that he'd been wanting to do for 10 years. I think that is what his animated film is almost. He's been trying to get that done for like a decade. This was
mm,
just kind of another. US adventure that he happened to get over 100 million for. It wasn't some big be all and bend all passion project that he wanted to do before Parasite.
Mm. It is. I always. It's just one of those directors where I'm going to anticipate, no matter kind of where I fully land on his films. Because he's always going to always feel like he's going to bring something interesting on the table. But his satires are just so deep in self-interest and personal hatred and these like unyielding critiques that I just think it has its limitations. And I almost want him to just move away from that slightly. Like something like Memories of Murder, it's got kind of this humorous and comical and slightly satirical parts to its kind of stupidity in a way. But there's something about that film that just clicks compared to his other projects. For me, anyway. But yeah,
I think I agree. Generally, his Korean films are better. Speaking of, what was the quote? The sauce is the
sauce is the true litmus test of civilization.
yeah. Speaking of somebody with sauce, I think we need to talk about the DP Darius Konji, which is the second time he's worked with Bong Joon-ho here, and I think
What was the other
it's
one?
fair to say that he's kind of an underappreciated cinematographer. I think because he's worked with David Fincher on Seven, Bong Joon-ho on Okja, obviously,
Ooh.
Michael Haneke on Amore and Funny Games. I think even some
Ooh.
of the
Which
movies
funny
that
games? Which funny games?
the remake. That is there a difference? Not really. With the cinematography, it's a shot for
um,
shot remake, is it not?
true,
Um,
it is, but I still wanted to know. Yeah.
Even some of the
Bong
films that he worked on that I aren't exactly on the level of those I just mentioned, I think those the cinematography stands out. Like Alien Resurrection, the cinematography is really
It
cool.
is. It's really good. Midnight in
Inarritu's
Paris.
last film, Bardo, looked amazing, even though the film wasn't great.
I need to see more Inarritu films, and I've been meaning to watch The Lost City of Z as well, or The Beach, Danny Boyle. He's Midnight in Paris is a horrendous film, so we're going to just ignore that.
Looks alright though.
The Ruins. That's an interesting film.
Mm.
Armageddon Time is pretty good. If you scroll down, he shot Eddington and Marty Supreme.
Oh, that's interesting.
I've
I did not
That
even
is
know that.
interesting. And I saw the other day that no, Marty Supreme is shot on 35, and The Smashing Machine, the other Safdie brothers film, the one with Dwayne Johnson, is shot on 16mm, which is going to be
Ooh.
really interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he worked with the Safdies on Uncut Gems as well. I forgot to mention that.
yes.
I think
So
Ariosa's
he's
a
kind
bit
of a
stacked.
collaborator. He's having that's a
I
really
don't.
interesting year. Mickey 17, Eddington, and Marty Supreme. That is
Yeah, it's crazy.
quite the year. That is quite the year. It's not quite Mukta last year. Well, we'll see. Actually, I am quite excited for both of those films. Marty Supreme does look quite. I think it will be quite a chaotic film, and then hopefully, maybe Mr. Chalamet can get his. Maybe next year might be his year. Maybe. But David Fincher could just kind of ruins his cinematography with those restorations. If we're going to be honest, like there's so much atmosphere to those films, and it's just like we just want to make everything perfect in this film and not look rough at all. We're just going to throw it away in the horrible restorations that I've done because I'm so obsessed and controlling about these restorations. Yeah, it is stupid, but yeah, I thought the film was good visually. And it's far from Bong's best compositional work. Yeah, cinematography was good. It was fine. Visual effects were great. But yeah,
I think Parasite and Mother is probably his strongest from a cinematography standpoint. There's actually there's a going back to Alien Resurrection. I think there's weirdly similarities between these two movies, like where both follow a replicant of the protagonist and it created by the corporation, and they're both out to experiment on an alien species. I thought that was a weird connection because I think a
Alien
lot of the
Resurrection is better. That's a good film.
it's better. Okay, that's the
It
hot
is.
take of the episode.
Yeah, Alien Resurrection is better than Parasite. Good film. Good film. I will not have Alien Resurrection slander.
I like
It's
Alien
better than Alien
Resurrection.
3, and it is miles better than the slop that is Alien Romulus.
I agree.
Alien Resurrection has got source to the
It
direction
does
though.
because of
Jean-Pierre
Darius Conde.
Jeunet
Yeah, he's a great
is
director as well.
he is an interesting director, and somehow I still haven't seen Amelie or Delicatessen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's doing. I think he's doing some great stuff here. There's definitely so much freedom to have when you work with a Bong Joon-ho film because of these constructed sets, which are always so meticulous and planned
Mm,
out. It actually reminded me a lot of Alien, kind of the production design here. Also being a lot of great blends of practical and VFX, like you're saying. There's a lot of moments where the camera kind of turns into like Mickey's POV, which I really liked. Like when he's being
mm,
told about the multiples machine by the woman and she hands him the suit, or like when the creepers are surrounding the ship. There's like this moment where the camera turns down into like him looking at the floor, and you see all the creepers like running past the ship through the glass floor.
mm,
I think there's also some great long takes in here, like when he's signing up to be an expendable. The camera's he's kind of like walking around the room, and the news guy is like walking in camera and interviewing different people. Also, that there's that dinner scene with Mark Ruffalo and Tony Collette, and they start singing. I think there's some great stuff there. I think is that maybe the funniest scene in the movie where like Mark Ruffalo is gonna shoot or shoot him, and
Oh
Tony Collette doesn't want to
no!
ruin her rug.
They just start singing out of nowhere. Oh no!
Mhm.
I
And
just started thinking about that Emilia Perez speech. I don't know why. Those songwriters.
yeah,
I can get that in my head. But yeah, that was that was something. That was something. Um, yeah,
the
he's
scene after
just
that in Kai's room is also all done on a oneer, which I liked, and just
mm,
generally there wasn't really any lazy camera work in here.
yeah, yeah, but he's done. Yeah, just I think for me it's his weakest film that I've seen. I still haven't seen his debut that you mentioned. It's the only one I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's his weakest film, and it's far from his kind of best compositional standouts and direction as a whole. Yeah, I don't know. First disappointment of 2025, but at least it's not a bad one, a bad film in a way. But I don't know. I just hope we don't get more of these disappointments,
Yeah, there's a
please.
few films I'd be devastated if they were disappointments for this
I
year.
agree. Mission Impossible is going to save it all, though we all know it. It's going to be a standout first half of
Hopefully.
the year. Mission Impossible. Obviously, it's going to much bigger things to come in the second half of the year when we move into festival season and award season becomes more forefront. But yeah, first half of the year is usually a bit drier. We got Sinners coming out next month. Very excited for that. Mission Impossible month after that. What else is actually coming out of massive interest in the first half of this year? F1 maybe, even though I am not too hot on that.
Yeah,
Let me have
I'm
a
not sure
look.
about that.
Dude, what else is meant to come out in the first half of this year? Well, I'd love the Shrouds or Caught by the Tides to come out in the first half of this year in this country, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen because neither of them have distribution. A Big, Bold, and Beautiful Journey by what is his name?
Coconata, is it his film?
Coconado, thank you. That got delayed till September, so that's no longer the first half of this year. That'll
I
probably
think
be a
I hope that will be like a best picture up there at least.
yes. 28 years later, that is another one coming out the first half of this year. Of course, the Phoenician Scheme coming out in May. Wes Anderson's new film, coming off the back
Very
of
excited for that.
his best film. I am excited for that as well. What else is coming out in the first half of this year?
Do you think Asteroid City is his best film?
Yeah, I do.
I like that take. I think
I
Grand
do.
Budapest is number one, but Asteroid is number two for me.
Parthenope looks not so good. There's something about the Materialist. Obviously, Past Lives is a good film, but I don't know. Just I'm not really feeling something about this cast, and I
My
just I
expectations are
don't
not
know.
high. It's not even the cast. I just
Yeah.
the concept of it doesn't sound like Past Lives is like S tier like romance films. This just sounds like a general rom-com that
Mm,
would come out 10 years ago. Cool that we're getting
yeah.
rom-coms with big actors, but it's not great for
Chris
its own
Evans.
song in terms of a great film.
Havoc with Gareth Evans, and that looks quite interesting. That's a streaming film. Yeah, there's some awful looking films. Hurry Up Tomorrow does not look good. I do not think that looks good at all. Death of the Unicorn looks pretty horrendous. Um, I'm cooling out for just us again the second half of the year because we could be lining up for something good, and I think even the Cannes lineup, I think, is suiting up to be something pretty spectacular this year and some pretty big names. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. Oh, well, I know Spike Lee said the highest lowest is coming out in the summer, so that might not be before halfway point, but that's something to look forward to in the summer. And I think that could be quite good. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one.
What about Park Chan Wook? When does that drop?
I can't. I was reading an article. I can't remember if. Let me have a look. What did they say? Did they say that was going to be Venice or Cannes? Alpha might be at Cannes. Yeah, I think Park Chan will be later in the year, regardless of which festival it drops. Obviously, that's going to be a guaranteed banger. And that's satire as well, which is interesting from the looks of it. By the description, anyway, it sounds quite satirical and over the top in an extreme violence way. But yeah, Kristen Stewart's got her directorial debut coming out this year, Chronology of Water. That could be interesting. But yeah, it is going to be something good, and I just hope that we don't get stuck in the same thing of I can't see things because distribution sucks. Like we're nearly a year on from last Cannes, and I still am dying to see The Shrouds and Caught by the Tides, and they still don't have distribution over here yet, which is not looking good. Jim Jarmusch has got a new film coming out this year as well, which is going to be interesting. Richard Linklater film on Godard's Breathless, which again I think is going to be great.
Hopefully.
But yeah, and my stomach wants to say Malik is dropping this year, but my my gut feeling is probably not.
It's not looking good.
Oh man. Oh, well, to be fair, no news is good news, and
Is it?
yeah, but he usually keeps quiet about this. I'm hoping it's like a surprise thing.
Does it? Okay.
I hope so. There's another film that that I was excited for. Let me have a look. Let me get my list up. But yeah, 2025 is off to. I can't say it's a disappointing start because most years start exactly like what 2025 is on at the moment.
We had done it this point last year, but
yeah, but
that's not normal.
not really that.
Yeah.
What was the? I'm looking for a film and I can't find it. I just been adding
Trey Edward Schultz follow up to your favorite movie of the weekend.
That's gonna be absolutely awful. The weekend looks like it's so far up his own ass, and yeah, I don't know. It just looks horrendous. I really have no hope for that film whatsoever. What's the hope? That's the film I'm looking for. If I can click on the director's name, directed by Na Hong Jin, who made The Wailing, a great Korean horror film. And yeah, he has a coming out this year with Alicia Vikander and Michael Fassbender and Taylor Russell.
Michael Fassbender's employed all of a sudden.
I know. Yeah, you do realize he was like he was racing for like 2 years, like in sports cars.
Was
like
he? Okay,
yeah,
that's cool then.
yeah. He was racing cars for like 2 years. That's why. The largely Korean language film will follow the residents of Hopoport, where a mysterious discovery is made on the outskirts of the remote harbour town. Before long, the residents find themselves in a desperate fight for survival against something they have never encountered before. A mixed language film directed by the guy of The Wailing. That is with some Taylor Russell employed as well. Thank goodness. She is a great actress who is in nowhere near enough films as she should be.
Yeah, she's a great actress. That's a great cast. Yeah, that could be really good. So.
Really, really great cast. And I think this might be a can. I hope it's a can.
Wait, here's another even greater thing about that. It's shot by Hong Kyung-po, which I think you said, which is another Bong Joon-ho cinematographer who
Oh
done
my God.
Parasite, Snowpiercer, Burning,
Oh, and
The
he's worked
Wailing,
with
Mother, Broker.
Creator as well. Broker. He's worked with
Yeah, this
Creator.
guy's great.
Burning is a beautiful film. That
Yeah.
is, yeah. This could be good. I love The
Mm,
Wailing. I think it's a really underrated horror film, and
I agree. Yeah.
really that could be really, really interesting.
Yeah, that shot. I wasn't even fully aware of that movie. That shot up to the top of my most anticipated list now.
Oh yeah, I literally just anything from like festivals, I'll just like scour through the lineup. Anything of slight interest is going straight on my 2025 most anticipated list, so I don't forget about it. I
Yeah,
want to.
isn't yours like
So,
100 movies long or something?
yeah,
I'm
it's
guessing.
let's have a look.
Yeah.
How many films are on here? There is like is 98, but it's like some of them are films is just films I don't want to forget about. So like there could be there's like some probably terrible films on here. But yeah, I just add loads of things on here. So yeah, I don't forget about them. It's like Sundance has seemed pretty strong. And I think they I don't even think Oh Canada's going to get a theatrical release, to be honest.
I completely
Yeah,
forgot about that. Yeah.
that's been out on digital for ages. It doesn't have a release date on Letterboxd. Cloud is getting released here. Great film in April. Go and see that. Raka Raka have got a new film with Sally Hawkins in. That trailer was really interesting, actually.
I don't think I
Really,
watched that, but I'll be seated for anything Raka Raka does.
yeah. Talk to Me was good. Talk to Me was good. Two Linklater films. What else? History of Sound. Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor. Jay Kelly. We got a new Noah Baumbach film, The 4-Star Goat, as I call him, with a fantastic cast. Billy Crudup is employed. Let's go. He's a good actor.
I really think this could be a special year.
It is
I don't
going
remember
to
another
be.
year recently where I've like had this many hugely anticipated movies.
Exactly. Sentimental Value, we've got a new Joachim Trier film. That is a shoe-in for Best International Feature, and we already know it. And I think that could end up being Best Picture nominee as well. They love him. They really do. And of course, a new Julia Ducournau film is dropping this year. That is going to be the horror film of the year.
Yorgos Lanthimos as well.
Yeah, true, but Kinds of Kindness wasn't all that, so we'll see.
True, yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, there is a lot to be excited about, without a doubt. Yeah, that Hope film. I'm glad I added that to my thing. That is interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if how much. Oh, and Hoyon is in it as well. Is she? Yeah, she's the girl from Squid Game, and she was in Disclaimer, the first season of Squid Game.
Oh yeah,
she's quite interesting as well, actually.
Yeah, like a great crew and cast. I really hope it's a good film.
I really do as well. But yeah, we have deviated so far from Mickey 17, but we just don't want.
Do you want to finish with a Bong Joon-ho ranking? We don't have to go.
Yeah, are we doing
more
just? Yeah, so my Bong
we
Joon-ho
can just discuss them and place them. I'll start because I think Barking Dogs Never Bite is you've not seen it, but I think that is
No.
firmly kind of accepted as his like worst film. A debut. I think it's like 300 grand or something. He made it for. It's like
Mm,
it's shot in his apartment building that he actually lived in. It's very low budget, but it's really quite funny. It's like a dark comedy. But there's some great moments in there. Kind of reminded me of it reminded me of Edward Yang's early films where like he just planks you in like this like kind of like in section of a city and explores like the different people around that. He's not exactly got a lot to say in the film. It's very low budget. But I quite liked it. I give it a 3 star. It's a good film to have as your worst. So I'll give that as a number 8.
mm.
What would you have as your bottom number? Bong Joon-ho.
7 if my thing is going to load. So I have Mickey 17 as my number 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've Mickey 17 as my number 6.
Hmm.
I'll place it 7th if you feel strongly about the betting there.
Oh, we're doing
Um,
collaborative ranking.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, 7th, Mickey 17 for me.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I think it's definitely low tier Bong Joon-ho.
Hmm.
And something that I have it right above Snowpiercer as well. I think those are kind of
Hmm.
set on like they're just very fun blockbusters with high concepts that don't really say anything revolutionary, but they're just kind of like
Hmm.
fun movies that it's nice to have that kind of extra layer of commentary on top of it. I think.
Hmm.
So very good films to
Yeah.
have as your like bottom tier of your career though.
Hmm. What's number 6? You
Um, so yeah, 6 is Snowpiercer, and then what do you have at 5?
I have Snowpiercer.
So I would have The Host here, which is
Hmm.
my one that I've not rewatched. But I think I'd have it as his lowest Korean film. I really like the kind of again just 'cause the satire on like the comically evil company that pollutes the water in the city so much that if I get like alien fish comes out of it or mutated fish and like runs havoc and kills everybody. But I think it's great, but I don't think it's quite in the level of his other films. So I'd have it number 5.
Mm. Then am I on number 4? My number 4 is Okja.
I'm okay with that. I'd have Oxford number 3.
Um,
Again, just I think that movie just always gets me emotionally when I watch it.
mhm.
Uh, I'll go for Mother
Mm,
for number 3 then,
that's
which I
fair.
just
It's my number
watched.
2.
Yeah, I just watched that, and again, it's the same DP as Parasite and the guy we just talked about. I think is probably maybe third behind Memories of Murder as well. Is like his best short film. Um, yeah, just a very quite dark in its comedy as well. That you always see from Bong Joon Ho.
Um, Number 2 is, well, I'm gonna have to say Parasite, even though it's his worst Korean film and second worst film. Um, but it's not number 1, so
That's fine with me. I'm happy you then tried to bit it like 7th.
I should
I
have done
think
that actually. That I should have done that.
yeah, I mean, I think everybody thinks Memories of Murder, and well, you don't, but everybody else thinks Parasite and Memories of Murder. He's like top 2. I think Parasite's like a level above Memories of Murder, but I don't think it's outrageous to have Memories of Murder at number 1. So I'm okay with that.
Nice, nice, nice.
Any last thoughts on Mickey 17?
Go and see it because unfortunately, don't think it's too good at the box office. We just need to keep that up. But yeah, I think Warner Brothers have really screwed over marketing on it, and I think they're screwing over the marketing on Sinners as well, which doesn't look too good. I cannot wait to see that on the biggest IMAX screen I can. I want that full aspect ratio, and it's going to be glorious.
Yeah, I avoided the trailers for Sinners because I heard that it spoils the film.
The
So I
second
just closed
one,
my eyes.
kind of
Does
spoils
it?
the
I just close my eyes
films.
when it comes in the cinema.
Have
Not
you
seen
not
any of
seen
the
any
trailers.
trailer?
No, I'm
Really?
completely in on the fact that he's doing a vampire movie. I don't need to see anything, so I've just been ignoring it.
Vampire movie.
I
It's a
don't know
bit
what the
more than
quotations
that.
mark means because I haven't seen anything.
It's a
But
bit the saying it's a vampire movie is a bit loose. It is a bit more than just a vampire film.
yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. I think in general, vampire movies are kind of used as like, I don't know if like prestigious horror is like the right word, but they kind of
Mm,
they're less interested in the vampire and kind of use it as a kind of like genre structure to build it in.
mm.
But yeah, very excited for that. Yeah, I don't really care that Mikey 17's bombing too much because he's just gonna go and make another Korean film and then that'll do
True.
amazing,
Yeah,
get the
don't care
budget
about
back.
Hollywood.
Yeah,
Yeah, just go make Korean films. That's what we
yeah.
want to see.
But yeah, we enjoyed it. Not top tier Bong, but let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Is it one of Bong Joon-ho's best in your opinion? And what did you think about it? Leave in the comments, and we'll be back next week. See you.